Some men are born fighters. Connor McGregor was born a storm. From the unforgiving concrete of Dublin's working-class neighborhoods emerged a gladiator who didn't just change fighting, he weaponized human ambition. His trash talk wasn't just words, it was psychological warfare that made champions crumble before the first punch landed. McGregor didn't rise through the ranks, he exploded through them, turning the mixed martial arts world into his personal playground. But behind the million-dollar smile and knockout power lay a darkness few dared to examine. A story of triumph, tragedy, and the razor's edge between genius and self-destruction. This is not just another fighter's tale. This is the unfiltered anatomy of a modern myth. Dreams don't come with guarantees, they come with hunger. In Crumlin, Dublin's unforgiving working-class landscape, Connor McGregor was forged in a crucible of limited options and unlimited ambition. By day, he was a plumber's apprentice, wrestling with mundane survival. By night, he was a fighter sculpting an escape route through pure, relentless will. Mixed martial arts wasn't just a sport for McGregor, it was his lifeline, his ticket out of a world that seemed designed to contain his potential. Every punch, every hour of training became a defiant declaration. He would not be defined by his circumstances, but by the extraordinary future he was determined to create. Invisibility was never Conor McGregor's destiny. What began in local Dublin rings quickly became a global hurricane of talent and swagger. When the UFC signed him in 2013, he wasn't just another fighter. He was a force of nature disguised in fight shorts. His fighting style defied classification, a boxer's precision, a taekwondo master's fluidity, and a showman's unbreakable confidence. McGregor didn't just enter fights, he choreographed them, predicting knockout moments with prophetic accuracy that left fans and opponents alike in stunned silence. The 13-second demolition of Jose Aldo in 2015 wasn't just a victory, it was a coronation, transforming McGregor from a promising fighter to an international icon who rewrote the rules of combat sports entertainment. Conor McGregor wasn't just a fighter, he was a walking, talking revolution. His trash talk wasn't mere words, it was a weapon that cut deeper than any punch. With a Dublin accent that could slice through steel and a confidence that defied logic, he transformed mixed martial arts from a sport into a global spectacle. McGregor didn't just enter rooms, he owned them, whether dressed in tailored suits or fighting shorts. He spoke to audiences who'd never watched a fight before, turning casual observers into passionate fans. But this meteoric rise was a high-wire act of constant reinvention. Every victory raised the stakes, every taunt increased the pressure. He wasn't just fighting opponents anymore, he was battling the massive expectations of an entire global audience, waiting for him to either become a legend or crash spectacularly. Success isn't just a ladder to climb, it's a current that can sweep you away. For McGregor, wealth and fame arrived like a tsunami, transforming the hungry fighter from Dublin into a global phenomenon overnight. Private jets replaced bus rides, designer suits replaced workout gear, and millions hung on his every word. But there's a darker side to having everything at your fingertips. When the world stops saying no, the boundaries between ambition and excess begin to blur. McGregor's larger-than-life persona demanded constant escalation. Being extraordinary became not just a goal, but an addiction. Yet fame is a double-edged sword that cuts deepest when you're highest. And for a man who lived to break barriers, the inevitable collision between legend and reality would send shockwaves far beyond the octagon. April 2018 marked the moment when McGregor's legendary intensity exploded beyond the confines of the cage. What began as a confrontation between his teammate Artem Lobov and rival Khabib Nurmagomedov turned into a scene straight out of a crime thriller at Brooklyn's Barclays Center. McGregor didn't just cross a line, he shattered it, along with the windows of a bus carrying UFC fighters. The metal dolly he launched wasn't just aimed at Khabib. It was a missile that wounded Michael Chiesa and Ray Borg, derailing their careers and transforming McGregor from controversial champion to criminal defendant overnight. The footage spread like wildfire, forcing the world to confront an uncomfortable truth. The man who had masterfully blurred the lines between showmanship and combat had now obliterated the boundary between promotion and violence. This wasn't calculated theater, it was raw, uncontrolled chaos that left both glass and reputations in pieces. The subsequent legal battle painted a stark portrait of a superstar wrestling with a devastating question. Had the fighter who once seemed unstoppable finally been conquered by his own demons? By 2019, Dublin's favorite son was writing a darker chapter in his hometown's very pubs. What began as a simple marketing moment, Connor offering his signature whiskey to patrons, spiraled into a shocking display of unchecked ego. When an elderly man quietly declined the drink, McGregor didn't just take offense. He responded with a punch that would tarnish his legacy far more than any octagon defeat. This wasn't a sanctioned bout, or even a heated rivalry. It was an innocent man, enjoying his pint, suddenly thrust into McGregor's orbit of violence. The security footage that emerged painted a devastating portrait. A champion who had forgotten the difference between the cage and the real world, where glory and infamy dance a dangerous line. The court of public opinion delivered a verdict swifter than any referee's call. This wasn't combat sports. It was assault, raw and inexcusable, caught in pixelated clarity. McGregor's guilty plea and public apology couldn't erase the image. A warrior who'd conquered champions now throwing punches at civilians in a pub. The fine he paid was pocket change. The cost to his legacy was immeasurable. In those few seconds of footage, fans witnessed something more damaging than any octagon defeat. A champion intoxicated not by whiskey, but by the dangerous belief that fame had placed him above consequence. Becoming a father with longtime partner Dee Devlin offered glimpses of a different Connor, one who shared tender family moments and vacation snapshots. Yet these scenes of domestic contentment jarred against his public turbulence. As controversies mounted, observers wondered, was his family life a stabilizing force, or did his volatile nature spill into those private spaces too? The warm social media posts about his children couldn't quite dispel the shadow cast by his ongoing troubles. Connor and Dee's relationship weathered constant speculation. As his celebrity grew, so did claims of infidelity, including allegations of a child from another woman, which he denied. Though none of these claims were proven in court, many ended in quiet settlements. The rumors challenged his family man image and put pressure on the normally private Dee. While loyalists dismissed the stories as fame-seeking fabrications, critics saw them as part of a broader pattern, a star who'd grown too accustomed to living without limits. Fame's spotlight revealed a disturbing pattern in McGregor's spiral. His calculated chaos inside the octagon had metastasized into something more volatile beyond it, each incident adding weight to a growing question. Had the master of controlled violence lost control of himself? The line between McGregor the showman and McGregor the liability began to blur, forcing fans to confront an uncomfortable reality. Their favorite agent of chaos had become a cautionary tale of what happens when a warrior's discipline crumbles under the weight of his own legend. Connor's rise was built on skill and strategy, not bravado. His landmark victories came through refined technique and relentless training. Now the once disciplined fighter seemed ready to throw it all away on impulse. His abilities remained unquestioned. It was his decision-making that drew concern. The UFC had given Connor a platform that he used brilliantly to promote fights and bring in new fans. His events broke pay-per-view records, and his name became bigger than the belts he held. But the UFC also had to deal with the fallout. The bus attack and other controversies challenged the organization's credibility. Could they still claim to be a professional sport if their biggest star acted this way? The fan base split. Loyalists defended him, claiming his fighting brilliance outweighed any missteps, but others felt duped. They'd invested in the story of a determined athlete rising from hardship, only to watch it unravel through his own choices. Over time, Connor faced various legal scuffles beyond the widely publicized ones. Some allegations didn't lead to convictions, and some charges were dropped. Still, repeated negative headlines took a toll on his reputation. The pattern of outbursts and tensions, even if not always proven in court, painted a picture of a man struggling with anger and impulse control. Money and fame can help solve some problems, paying fines or reaching settlements, but they can't erase the public memory. Each new report reminded people that the Conor they saw in the cage and the Conor outside, it might not align. Was the kind, hard-working fighter of old still in there, or had he vanished beneath layers of pride and privilege? While all this unfolded outside the octagon, Conor's career inside it also faced challenges. After achieving the milestone of holding 2 UFC belts at the same time, he took a long break and even pursued a high-profile boxing match against Floyd Mayweather Jr. Though he lost that boxing bout, he earned a huge payday. Many wondered if the love of competition was being replaced by the love of money and fame. When he returned to MMA, he didn't enjoy the same easy dominance. He lost to Khabib in a fight that became notorious for the post-match brawl between their teams. Later, he lost fights against Dustin Poirier and suffered a serious leg injury. While many top fighters faced defeats, Conor's setbacks felt different. They were happening as the world questioned his behavior, making him look less like a fearless champion and more like a star fading under the weight of his own legacy. Conor's early showmanship, the mockery, wealth flashing, and bold predictions had a playful edge that complemented his fighting skill. But over time, his taunts grew darker and more personal, the mischief curdling into apparent malice. His erratic social media posts left fans wondering, was this desperate attention-seeking, or had fame's pressure transformed their once magnetic champion? To his credit, Conor tried to mend fences in some cases. He apologized for the pub incident, acknowledging he was in the wrong. He pledged money to hospitals and charities. He spoke of learning from mistakes, of wanting to be a better example for younger fighters. He sometimes showed warmth and care that reminded people why they liked him to begin with. But words only go so far. True redemption would require consistent effort over time. Could he truly change? Or would he revert to old habits the next time emotions ran high? Skepticism was natural. Some praised him for trying to improve. Others doubted his sincerity. Without steady proof of better behavior, the apologies risked sounding hollow. Environment can shape a person's actions. Early in his career, Conor had to fight tooth and nail just to be noticed. He trained with intensity, listened to coaches, and respected the process. Later, surrounded by luxury and hangers-on, did he lose that grounding force? It's not uncommon for celebrities to find themselves in bubbles where few dare to challenge them. If Conor's circle feared angering him or losing their place in his world, they might stay silent when he crossed lines. Without honest feedback from close friends or mentors, self-awareness can fade. Surrounded by yes men, a star might confuse bad ideas for good ones. The story of Connor McGregor is about more than one athlete's rise and fall. It's a lesson about the cost of unchecked power. Professional fighting is about skill, bravery, and respect. When bad behavior overshadows achievements, it diminishes the sport's hard-won credibility. MMA spent decades trying to be seen as professional and respectable, moving past old stereotypes. A star like Conor could lift it higher or drag it backward. Fans invest emotion into their heroes. They love a good redemption arc and appreciate when champions show humility. If Conor continues to wrestle with his darker side, he risks losing the goodwill he once enjoyed. This battle isn't about belts now. It's about what kind of legacy he will leave. The world loves a comeback story. There's a reason fans still talk about heroes who stumbled, learned from mistakes, and rose again, stronger and wiser. Conor's troubles could be the first chapters in a longer tale of redemption. But he alone must decide what path he takes. Money and fame don't last forever. Skills can fade, and crowds can move on to the next big thing. If Conor hopes to stay relevant and respected long-term, he must prove he's not defined by the darkest headlines. Every action moving forward will either rebuild trust or tear it further down. The stakes are high because his legacy, how future generations remember him, is on the line. Conor McGregor's journey isn't over. He could still surprise everyone. The man who shocked the world by climbing from obscurity to dual champion status might find a new purpose. Perhaps becoming a mentor, a responsible spokesman for the sport, or a humble veteran who acknowledges his flaws and uses them to teach others. Or maybe he'll remain trapped in a cycle of heated tempers, and rash decisions, letting his past define his future. The choice rests in his hands. Fans, fighters, and the MMA world wait, wondering if he'll find the strength to rise above his worst moments, or if he will be remembered for them. Right now, the story is at a tense moment. The crowd that once cheered without question now watches with folded arms. The next headlines Connor McGregor creates will help decide how history judges him. Will he become a cautionary tale of wasted potential, or the hero who stumbled but refused to stay down? Can he break free from the dark shadows that follow him, or are they destined to grow longer as the years pass? We don't know the answers yet. That's what makes this chapter so gripping. As the world waits for Connor's next step, one truth remains. Every legend is made not just by triumphs, but by how they confront the darkest parts of their own story. For Connor McGregor, the bell has not yet rung its final time, and the final outcome of his legacy is still up for grabs.